How's it going, Mike?
Great to be here, Frank.
Yeah, it is great to
on
be
a
here.
beautiful Monday morning.
Yes, it is.
How are we doing?
Good. I love it here because it's like really cold in the morning, and then it gets. I think it's going to be like 80 degrees today.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect.
We got summer in the afternoon, winter in the morning.
Yes, jacket.
Welcome to Arizona, baby.
Yeah, we got it all over the place. So
I love it. Yeah. So what are we going to dive into today? What do we bring into the audience?
Let's talk about the concept of unconditional living and go into that and see where it takes us.
Awesome. Yeah. We got some clips for you guys today, too, so we're excited to share these.
Yep. So, So what is unconditional living?
Unconditional living.
Yeah.
Great starting point for us. Unconditional living, just like, well, let's start with what's unconditional.
Yeah.
You know, unconditional, without condition, right? We always hear about this unconditional love that's given to us by our parents, by God, you know, all that, right? Well, what is that? It means no matter what, no matter any condition, love is present. And so with that being said, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing is, are we living that? And you know if you are.
It would be hard for anybody to say if they're truly living that, you know?
And that's the cause of all of anxiety and depression is the conditionality of the world have to be a certain way in order for me to feel happy. And how we got into that pattern is because when we were younger, we had these great experiences. And they were every day, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then we started conditioning them to like, oh, I had fun because I climbed the tree, or I, won the baseball game. Mm-hmm. It's not why you had fun. Those are just expressions of your fun being expressed outward. But then we solidified it, and the causation is out there. The condition that sits outside of me came in, and then I defined it that way, and I put a pattern in my system. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, as I collect these experiences, and if any of the experience doesn't match up to this, I'm no longer happy. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden there comes the conditioned life. The conditioned life is a very treacherous life. So how do we go from conditioned life to back to the unconditional life in which we're meant to live? All right. Well, we have to start dropping some concepts that we have, such as accomplishment. All right.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, think about, you ever think about who was the first person to ever accomplish something, and when they did, they weren't trying to accomplish it?
Well, that's how the greats accomplish a lot.
Yeah,
Albert Einstein,
they really, I can imagine, Zeppelin sitting around, playing, they loved music. They weren't trying to accomplish anything, and then all of a sudden, Stairway to Heaven flew out of them. Maybe the next couple of albums based on, Rolling Stone and Cream Magazine, holding them to this attitude. I'm like, hey, okay, that was a great album, but let's see what the next one brings, right? So now, maybe a little more tension onto them to accomplish an album that's going to compete, or a particular song that's going to compete with Stairway to Heaven. Mm-hmm. And I'm just using Stairway to Heaven from vantage point. It could be, Kashmir or whatever, or any band for that matter of fact. But they weren't trying to accomplish something. They got into the state, and this is what came out of them. Mm. And then they shared it with the world. So why are we trying to accomplish something? So now you might get some musician right now. It's like, I want to be as famous as Led Zeppelin. I'm like, that's the most absurd thing in the world. I'm like, you can't do that. Because you're trying to accomplish something that's unaccomplishable. Mm-hmm. You can't get to that point. Mm-hmm. So why are we doing this? Where if we get into a certain state, in an unconditioned state, where we just let energy flow to us, we're going to do things that look accomplished. But our goal wasn't to do that. Think about the first love you met, or the one you have right now. You weren't trying to accomplish them. They just came into your life, and you noticed that. Mm-hmm. Now it's kind of like you've been there for a while, and you start moving away from that. And why is that? So you started setting conditions, right? Because in the beginning, you didn't know them to have any conditionality onto how they were supposed to behave.
I need you to show up this way.
Yeah, because you showed up that way the first day. So, you met them. I was like, oh, I love them because they had the red dress on. It had nothing to do with the red dress, so to speak. It had to do with the attraction. And it stepped into the, And when we start to do that, we start to understand these concepts and understand what's happening. We'll let go of the condition. It doesn't mean you're not going to have an accomplished life. Actually, quite the opposite. But the focus isn't on the accomplishment. The focus is on the field of energy that allowed the accomplishment to come through.
Isn't it funny how this is when we talk about the unknown, what we're talking about. When you get to that stage of what, it's like you think if you stop caring about it, or if you're not worried about it, then it won't happen.
No.
And so we stay stuck, with these conditions.
Yeah.
Because we're like, well, no, this is how this must happen, or this must work out.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then I won't accomplish what my goal is, and then I've failed. I'm a failure. See, we get so wrapped up in this tussle, this chase, and that's the dog chasing his tail.
Yeah, because the first time we actually experienced that thing, we weren't trying to accomplish it. Mm-hmm. It just happened. It came into our lives. So as we start to let go of preferences, way things have to, or conditions, all of a sudden you experience this in the everyday moments of life. Because we do have these moments, we were talking about this earlier, where they stand out, either what we call miracles or tragedies, right? They stand out. They don't happen every day. But by letting go of conditions, you actually realize every moment, the most simplest thing is a miracle, right? It really is. It's this beautiful moment staying here, whether it's just sitting there, watching the snow fall outside your window if you're in a wintry place, or just the fact that your body's breathing. People take this, they overlook this. It's kind of like when I heard somebody say, talk about was it Jordan Peterson wrote 12 Rules for Living? And one of them, I heard somebody challenge him on this. One of them was making your bed. And he wrote this, I don't know if making your bed was a whole, I think it was a whole chapter on it, or premised on it, and he went into depth, which he can really do. And someone called him on that, and this is ridiculous. And he's like, no, if you can't fundamentally get to the place where you can actually make your bed, where can you go from here? When you overlook these things, everyone's overlooking all the steps in which will lead them to the very thing in which they want to experience. But overlooking the steps is not going to get you anywhere near the area in which you're trying to experience, not accomplish, but experience. And it's joy. We think if my business makes $100 million, I'll get to a point where I'm happy. I'm like,
and then I'll want to make my bed.
I'll pay someone to make my bed, right?
But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we skip over these steps, and once I have this, then I'll do these things to get there.
And what you start to realize, it's all the day-to-day, what was once deemed to be mundane. It was the day-to-day acts and movements and unconditional movement into something that created the $100 million year business. And I'm not saying that should be an accomplishment. I'm just using it as an exaggeration of what happens here. Michael Singer's story is brilliant on that. The surrender experiment, right? And the reason I bring the money part up, because people seem to be attracted to that. It opens your eyes and makes your ears, you lean in, what's he talking about? But if you ever read his book, The Surrender Experiment, he set out, he went to college. He was, math and science major, and Yogananda came to the United States, and he, Michael Singer lived in right around Gainesville, Florida. Mm-hmm. But I think he went out to California to go meet with him, and he was kind of pulled into that, that type of stuff. And Yogananda was teaching things differently than anyone else. So Michael Singer came back, and he kind of, I think he graduated college, but kind of dropped out and just kind of bought a piece of land right around Gainesville, Florida, built a cabin and so on and so forth, made a meditation, retreat type thing. And he just wanted to live his life alone in the woods in the beginning, right? Get away from society. And then, one day he found himself walking into a Radio Shack and saw a computer, or, hardware set of a computer, and grabbed it and picked up a book on coding and all these things. And, because his mind's a scientific mind, he's utilizing, he's still doing his meditations and yoga every day and all that stuff. And then one day he creates a program that is for medical billing. And his company blew up. And then he sold the company for like $2 or $3 billion.
Yeah, ridiculous.
He wasn't
number.
trying to accomplish anything. He was just living his life. And that's the brilliance of it. So if it's meant to happen in your life, it will. If it's not, not. But most people are trying to accomplish something that has no variable to do with their life, why they came here. And that destroys your soul. And it's a false way of destroying your soul.
Yeah.
So when we get out of the conditions, because we don't know, like I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again because I like it. But say you're in a book and the book has 8 billion words in the book. You're only one word out of those 8 billion words. So how are you trying to explain the book from that vantage point? I can't. And I know I can't. But my word is needed in the book. So I'm going to contend to my word. I'm going to contend to what I'm doing. And trust that the other words before me and after me are leading up to my word. And makes my word accomplished from that vantage point. But it wasn't something I had to accomplish. It's something I am. And all of a sudden, it releases all this energy for me to go do shit, which people think is accomplishment, and it's not. And when I've learned that, and I've been living by this, and once in a while I get caught up in the accomplishment thing. I do. I'm like, we need to do this. We need to do that. And I'm like, no, we don't. And when that does, it takes the energy away from me. But all of a sudden, when people that know me for a while, I'm like, man, you're accomplishing a lot. And I'm like, well, I wasn't trying to at that point. When I was trying to accomplish it, I was barely making it, because I was trying to accomplish stuff that other people thought I should accomplish. Or I'm like, oh yeah, I want to be a rock star like Eddie Van Halen. And like good accomplishment there.
It takes a lot to try to accomplish something, but it doesn't take any effort at all to do something or be something. And I feel like that is where the kind of the hang up is the mind comes into play when we have to accomplish something, and it becomes overwhelming. It's like drowning of how many things need to get done, what needs to happen, this backup plan to this contingency, all sorts of things. But when we just are something, when we just be, when we're just in that moment, in this now moment, and we do the task, it's totally different experience than trying to accomplish something. So you want to accomplish something. Maybe that's weight loss. Maybe that's a certain job. Maybe that's a certain partner. Well, what would you be doing if you had that? You would take the steps that would lead you there, and you would be there. That's where we would start. It would be a sense of doing, creating a momentum. The being is something that you participate in. And so I feel like when we're trying to get out there and accomplish something, we're psyching ourselves out about how much we need to do rather than just taking that initial step.
Yeah. And if you're trying to say let's take losing weight. If you're trying to accomplish losing weight, the frustration is why you're eating. Because the frustration will temporarily give you dopamines, which will take you out of frustration for a moment. And then after you eat that chocolate cake, now you're even more frustrated. So you double down on your frustration in the act of trying to accomplish something. Mm-hmm. Where if you just generate the energy where you are right now and there's no accomplishment, it doesn't mean you don't want to lose weight. All of a sudden, it occurs to you, it takes more effort to go into the refrigerator to cut a slice of chocolate cake than it does to do nothing. Mm-hmm. All right. It doesn't mean that we won't do anything. Actually, it frees up energy to where we actually end up doing more than we would otherwise. Because when we're trying to accomplish something, we do less. We just worry about it more and get in the way. And a lot of times what we're trying to accomplish wasn't necessarily in the movement of our theme of why we came here. Everyone came here for a reason. And how do you know? Well, you'll know when it's over. Mm-hmm. But when you trust the river you're on and the stream you're on, however you want to look at it, you get into that field and allow that. Like musicians had to trust when they went to studio, whatever method they used, that music would come out of them. Mm-hmm. They would have to trust it. But when they try to force it,
you can tell.
Man, it's like, okay, let's take a break and settle down. Einstein knew this when he was working on equations and problems. And he would be flowing and all of a sudden he gets stuck. And he realized he was trying to make something happen. And he did a myriad of things. One was ride his bike, go for a walk, play his violin. and because that distracted him from what he was trying to accomplish. And then the energy came in and appeared to him, and then the information based on the energy field, the field he went into, the information was already there. He just plucked it out of the sky. Just like, Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page got together, and they went to the field called Stairway to Heaven. It was always there. They just had to both immerse themselves in it and pluck it out.
I heard this story one time actually about, I think it was Michael Jackson actually, who was he woke up real early one morning and he had a song that he dreamt about or that came to him at night. And he told his staff or management or whatever, hey, I got to get in the studio now. We got to go record this. And they're like, whoa, hold on. We got some studio time planned for, a month from now or whatever. And he was like, no, I need to go record this now. Otherwise Prince is going to. And he actually said that, and he knew that like there was like this
in his
field.
dream. Dream, Prince was in his dream.
No.
Prince like, I'm gonna beat you to it.
He just said right. He said though, he was like, he knew that he was like, he didn't say this, but
it was in the field.
Yeah, he knew it was in the field,
and Prince was flying in the same field.
And he was like, if I don't do this, Prince will.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so funny because it's very. A lot of times, artists, oh yeah, this poured out of me. This, we try to, take credit. We put the identity on, the character that wrote this, and we create this whole story around it, rather than what actually happened, which is just like, Stairway to Heaven being plucked out of the ether.
Yeah, they've actually, yeah.
But Michael Jackson actually, said it.
What song was it? Remember?
I don't. I saw this clip
Prince
and somebody
talking
about
damn, it. I got to get up earlier.
Exactly.
Then after that, Prince set his alarm for 3:00 in the morning.
I just thought that was really cool because I was like, damn, he gets how this universe works.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, we're, there's this hive mind effect. There's this field and things will come to us. This is, you can look this up. It's cool. Like, there's multiple like inventions and certain patents and things that like, have come at similar times or the same experiment being done by different scientists.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the whole thing is like, when someone brings, a patent or experiment or something into the world, like the truth is to the people listening, whether it was Michael Jackson, Prince, it didn't matter. Whether it was Albert Einstein or some other mathematician who almost came up with, I think it was equals MC squared. I forgot which one of his. He wrote published 4 patents in 1 year in 1905.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he actually went to sue the guy, but it turned out the guy was coming from a different angle. So the guy was on the precipice of discovering what Einstein discovered. But to the people, like to the earth, it doesn't really matter whether it was Einstein. Maybe that guy had a better haircut or something. But nonetheless, it was Albert Einstein. We don't need to play that game. But now, like there are people that like had an idea of an invention and somebody else picked it up and, they scream misery over the other person. But I'm like, yeah, but the invention was needed, so to speak. So if you can actually stop with the conditionality of I have to do that, I'm like, I like the fact that people are actually producing beautiful music that can get us into these states that because Stairway to Heaven, say Stairway to Heaven was at this state. When we could be here and we're listening to it, it pulls us up into that state. So we're right there with Jimmy Page, Bottom,
Great.
Plant, and they're pulling us up there with them. Now we're with them as we're listening to that. That's the purpose of art. But it doesn't matter who did it. Right?
Exactly.
Now, to the ego of the artist, like, oh yeah, look at me.
It was me.
Look at me.
Yep.
And I think over the years they realized, no, like they asked a lot of musicians where that come from. Like, it just came through me. The reason they know that is, why can't Zeppelin at some point come out with another song that was equally or just as great as Stairway to Heaven? Because they realized it just came to them. That's what they had. And then obviously greater then becomes subjective anyway. But it's like, I like the fact that I didn't have to learn how to play guitar and write music in order to have that song come out. I'm like, someone did it for me.
And that's what's so cool about this experience.
To experience it. Yeah.
But that's what's cool about this experience is it is us all pushed out.
Yeah.
And you are a reflection, of the other. And that's what's so cool. This world is a mirror. And you can have that experience and enjoy it. It doesn't mean you have to be the one who put pen to paper or, notes written.
Yeah. And I dare anyone out there to examine their life when they, like, whether it's a moment last week or it was when you're a child or whatever, it doesn't, when you were younger, when you feel really good, energy's flowing without any external things happening, it's because you were in what we call an unconditional state of allowing. And that's why. So all come we go through that and then we lose that. I'm like, why does this keep happening? Because now you're trying to accomplish something. Mm-hmm. The universe doesn't need us to accomplish anything. It already accomplished the universe. Like, remaking a freaking microwave is good. Like, it made a goddamn sun.
Kids are in this unconditional state, this unconditional living state all the time. And I see it too. And I love it. When I'm around Kayla and her kids, it's so cool. Like, there's no thought of, I need to do something today, or I need to make money today, or I need to, no.
You want to upset a kid really quick? Give them something they have to accomplish. Why do you think we hate school? At some level we do, but then there's another level when we get a great teacher or a great moment. I shouldn't say that teachers are all bad, but the teachers have these moments where they're not taking a test, they're doing something, and all of a sudden everyone gets involved in the activity, and they're not going to be tested on it. All of a sudden it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. But once you say, okay, I'm going to test you on it to see what you know or what you don't know, all of a sudden that creates a nervousness in the system, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying we have to get rid of that, but, teach the student then to, like, all right, if I take a test and I only got 60% on it, it means I have 40% to learn of that subject and whatever. Don't get upset. But we hold such value to it. We value people on what they know. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, but, at some point, that person that gets straight A's is going to come up to a moment in time where they don't have straight A's. Why? Because they're going to enter into a field of stuff they don't know. And that's going to be heartbreaking. Why? Because their toward accomplishment is an A. And so you see this a lot with, in high school, because of the way money is now, they create the testing to gear towards showing the kids how to take the test, not why, how to think, but what to think, how to look at it. And then the kids go in there. And, like, I remember my son, he's a smart kid, but, like, all the kids around him were getting straight A's. I'm like, I had like 3 classmates that got straight A's, like, and they went to Harvard and stuff like that. I'm like, that wasn't a goal in the 80s. It was just like the goal was keg party on Friday night,
living.
But so, like, obviously grades meant something, but, like, everyone, if everyone around me had straight A's, I would have quit school, like, for the love of God, like, But also when they made that accomplishment, it had to do with funding. What happens is when those kids get to college, the funding's already there. They're going to have to pay, if the Ivy League college is like $60,000 to $70,000 per year right now.
More than that now, man. It's crazy where the prices are at now.
So all of a sudden they get there and the professor's not going to level them up. Maybe they would have, if the professor wants to, but they're going to start finding out what you do and do not know, and a lot of those kids have a tough time that really didn't understand whatever they're trying to understand, and they can suffer, or they can grow from that as well, as long as they take the condition. If a great professor says, "Hey, we're here. If you're getting straight A's, why are you here?" New way of looking at college. All right. So if you got straight A's, you don't need to be here. And you're here for a reason, to learn stuff that you don't know, to experience stuff you don't know, but not to accomplish anything, because you don't know. We don't know. Everyone says, I'm going to do this, 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 and this, so one day I could be here. I'm like, all right, call me in 10 years, before you open the bottle of vodka and start drinking yourself to death, because
that's it.
Yeah. Again, you want to hear God laugh?
Tell them your plans.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the truth, though. Yeah. We create a story in our head. We are the greatest storytellers of all times. And we say, I can't accomplish this because I didn't do that. Yeah. Which you don't need to do that to accomplish what you're setting out for. Although, yes, that's one way of accomplishing that. It's like we've limited ourselves, and we've told ourselves there's only certain ways that I know this can be accomplished. And we have shut out every other possibility of ways that same thing could be accomplished. And it's crazy how we do this, because there's infinite ways for things to occur, take place, happen in our lives. But we're constantly saying, this isn't happening this way, so it's never going to happen. And that's the energy, that's the vibration, that's the frequency that we're sending out into the world. And then we're confused, and perplexed and upset when things aren't happening, rather than being.
Actually, there's always things happening. You just don't appreciate them.
Yeah.
So, like,
manifestation is just living. It's a reality.
You don't need to learn how to manifest. You already
you are manifesting.
It's like you don't need
at all times.
Yeah, you don't need to learn how to breathe. You're always breathing. But can you breathe more efficient? Yeah. So, like, if you weren't breathing, you wouldn't be here to talk about it. So, manifestation is something that already happens. It has nothing to do with us. What manifestation has to change is our perspective on how we look at it. Is this suck? Is this good? Is this bad? And the conditions we have, if we have this condition, it has to happen this way. To say we live in a world of 50-50, well, 50% of the time you're going to be happy. The other 50%, you're not. And I'm like, that's a shitty way to live life. You know?
Why don't you tell the story we were talking about this morning? That Vesuvius guy, because I think that's going to tie into
Sisyphus.
Yeah,
Sisyphus.
I like that story.
Yeah, well, it's an old Greek story. It's about King Sisyphus, and he was kind of a squirrely guy. He was like a very nice guy based on the Greek mythology.
Okay.
And he always defied the gods, and he even escaped death through a story. I don't know the story's how it goes, but I think he told his wife to throw him off this balcony, and he landed in water, and he ended up dead. And when he came upon the taker of the gods of death or whatever, he told this wild story that his wife did this on purpose. Meanwhile, he commissioned her to do it, so they gave him life again. So he escaped life. That's kind of I don't know if I got the story perfectly right. So he escaped it. So then Zeus came down and said, "Listen, you're not going to escape this. For eternity, you're going to be pushing a boulder up a hill," and all of a sudden, and because back then in the understanding of this Greek mythology, accomplishment is king. You're not going to be able to accomplish anything because the time he got up to the top of the hill, the boulder would roll down. So now he was in eternity of pushing a boulder with no aspects or no outlook of accomplishment. Now along came Albert Camus, who was a 20th century philosopher who wrote the narrative on the story of this Greek mythology story, and he put a different perspective spin on it, where Sisyphus now was laughing at the gods because he wasn't in the realm of accomplishment. So once he realized, I don't need to accomplish anything, rolling this boulder up the mountain to the top and letting it roll down is the joyous thing I could do. So he was laughing all the way. So he then defeated the gods.
I was going to say transcended the gods once again.
Yeah, because years ago we looked at the universe as this organizing principle, and if we don't do what the universe wants to do, we're going to be deemed to hell and rolling a boulder up the hill. But like that's not how the universe is looked at from Camus' vantage point. So when he took that story, and all of a sudden now Sisyphus is rolling this boulder up the hill and enjoying every moment, he's defying the gods in the way the gods were defined. So now it's a whole new definition. So when you take accomplishment out, rolling the boulder up the hill and rolling it down is kids play. So you have a dog at home, throw the ball, bring it back.
Exactly.
The dog is not trying to accomplish anything. It just wants to play. So, but if there was an accomplishment in that, your frustration would come because the condition of how things are supposed to happen just evade us. And that's why it's a brilliant story based on Albert Camus' version of it. And he was an interesting guy.
But isn't that cool how a perspective can come in like that and really change a story? Because we've all heard that story about that guy, pushing the boulder up the hill and, oh my God, trapped for eternity pushing this boulder up the hill. But just a
like
little
marriage.
change. Yeah. But just a change in perspective, just like that. All of a sudden that becomes oh my God, he transcended this banishment to all eternity.
Yeah. Now, like, I joke about that. Garrett's going to give me shit for that. But
Yeah.
if you look at marriage, not as a place for accomplishment, but for a place of expansion and experience. If you look at your job as not something to accomplish, but a place to experience expansion. You look at everything as a place to experience expansion. You will be accomplished in it because you kept moving forward, but that wasn't the goal. It's a paradox. So we're not saying that just go sit on a couch and do nothing. The reason people sit on a couch and do nothing, because they're looking at the top of the hill must bear the boulder, but it won't because it's a hill roll down. So they give up. So now I'm sitting on a couch giving up, unless you watch a really good show on Netflix. That's a whole different story. There is a time, right? But when you start to look at people that break down, it's because they were trying to accomplish the thing that was impossible to accomplish, because there is no accomplishment there. And once you do accomplish something, now what? I accomplished to make $100 million. And then your friend says, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. Now now I have another accomplishment. Because if I don't do something with it, it's going to disappear without me experiencing it, right? So in the act of even forcing accomplishments, still momentarily will distract you from it. Like, yeah, you jump up, but the game's not over. The game keeps going. Now, when you take it away and realize, I'm going to stop accomplishing, like Michael Singer, all of a sudden, yeah, who cares? Life is good. And it's genuine. It's not like they're faking it, because they're not trying to sell us anything. I don't know how much his book cost, but it wasn't a lot of money. Great story. But once I got that sense and let go of it, and it started falling these philosophies, I then wrote several books. I have a business. But I wasn't trying, like, even in a business once in a while, I could get like, okay, what are we trying to accomplish this year? And I get so caught up in it, I feel weird. And I'm like, not to upset people. And what it is, there's no accomplishment. I just want to be in an environment that feels really good. And all of a sudden, when I do that, all of a sudden, business oddly gets better for me.
Exactly.
Just more natural. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
There's no tugging. There's no need. There's no. If this doesn't happen, I won't see. That's the frequency. That's the energy. That's the vibration that we're sending out there.
Yeah. So like, if things are busy at work, great. But if things are slow, no, it's no good. I'm like, no, you got to understand. The universe gives us these things called cycles. And what do we think? We can evade them? No, but we can utilize them. Why is winter so bad opposed to summer? All right? Well, the body's 100 degrees, nearly 100 degrees temperature. And in the summertime, depending where you live, your body temperature is close to the weather, so you don't notice it. I'm like, oh, you don't want to feel anything. Is that what it is? You don't want to feel different? I'm like, that would be a shitty life. Imagine I had one feeling, and it would, like, imagine like you got a feeling, and it was like, everyone, like, that guy got excitement, and I got like somber. Like, son of a bitch. Like,
he got the good one.
Got only handed out a couple of feelings. Everyone has all these radiant or frequencies, what we call like the rainbow. Like the rainbow comes from one source of white light, and it goes through a raindrop, which creates a prism, and then fractalizes them into different frequencies. So from the bottom is red, and all the top is violet. Red is a lower dense frequency than violet, but then every color in between has its own frequency. So they took the infinite frequency of white light and broke it down into different frequencies, sound, in this case it's light, and all of a sudden we can then see all the different frequencies of light divided in what we call the rainbow. I'm like, wow. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's how life is. And when we start to notice this, we sit back and we don't try to accomplish anything. Then we go forth and have an experience. And that's when people write the great books about their life. And the great book isn't like, damn, I want to live that life. No, it's like, you are living your life, because if you didn't recognize that in the other person, you can only recognize that in the other person if you yourself were part of that,
I always try to figure out, like, how to break things down, and what are we saying here, and we're saying a few different things when we're talking about this type of paradox. And really what it comes down to is like a neutral state. It comes down to, I'm good if I have it, I'm good if I don't. And that when you ask someone who's trying to achieve a goal or accomplish something, are you okay if you don't have that? If they're being honest, they're going to say, no, I need that. And it's in that we need to look and more. We need to go, well, why do we need that?
But what's very funny about this? Because when you really examine it, so like say, hey, unless I get the Ferrari, the 2025, I won't be happy. And I'm like, were you never happy in your life? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, because it's only now 2025, and 10 years ago there wasn't a 2025 Ferrari existing on the planet. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even into existence. So everything that comes into existence is fleeting just as quickly. So if you're looking for the outside world to become happy, you'll never be happy. Even if you got the Ferrari, you might temporarily be distracted by accomplishing or getting that Ferrari from your agony in your head of saying, I need this thing, now you have it. And then a month later, it's just another Ferrari. Mm-hmm. And then like you find out that like, oh, they changed the model. Like, how they do it, like certain cars will do it every. Yeah. Well, some cars will, like some manufacturers will wait like 10 years or whatever, so the model doesn't change. It keeps the value of up. I'm just using an example. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you bought the very last one, and then the new one came out. I'm like, shit. It's kind of like when the Mustangs changed. Yeah. They were like, because you go back years ago, and this is all subjective, but. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you bought a Mustang, and the next year they came out with the old muscle car one. I'm like, son of a bitch, if I just waited. Like that.
There's lots of that good goes on. That buyer's remorse, that feeling.
But that's what happens when we get into that state, And it's too much conditioned into what's supposed to happen. We don't know. Again, you're one word in an 8 billion word book. Good luck explaining that damn book.
Exactly.
But my sensories know what it's experiencing. But what it's experiencing is illusion. Because, hey, can you experience a rainbow? No. You can look at it.
Yeah.
Good. I guarantee you, try to touch it. It's an illusion. It's a visual illusion. Right? It's just like a mirage in the desert. But it's a real experience. I'm seeing the rainbow after it rains. That's why there's always a pot of gold at the end, because you'll never find it. Mm-hmm. Try to find the beginning of the rainbow and the end of the rainbow. Just drive. You'll never get there.
It's a great example, because that's something that's like somewhat concrete. Everyone knows what a rainbow is, but can you touch it? Nope.
Nope. You could see it though. That your visual and what it is. So the visuals is a real sensory thing, but it's because it's an illusion. It's non-tangible and stuff like that. So anything that's fleeting is in and of itself defined as an illusion. So my body at some level is an illusion because it's fleeting. Yeah.
Well, just like that, I forgot that company in China or something that made a actual invisible cloak. I don't know if you saw that, but like that person had like something that they could touch, but you can see through it. And like that's nuts, And so it's funny how we can manipulate the senses, but we pretend like the senses are all we have. Like we live in this world that tells us, if you can't see it, touch it, smell it, kick it, spit on it, then it's not real.
That's I'm glad you brought that up. So, all right, say we have 5 senses, and say there's a billion senses out there that we're not privy to. So
Which is true. Bats and different.
I'm trying to tell you how this world is off of my 5 senses, just like I'm trying to tell you how the book is off of my one word. I'm like, it's incomplete, people, but nonetheless, you have an experience. So when we step back from trying to accomplish anything, you actually have these beautiful experiences, and then for other people, when you express these beautiful experiences, such a musician, a writer, a business owner, whatever it is, doesn't mean you stop doing that. All of a sudden, people notice. What are you doing? And the best of the best do it with ease. Sometimes they're embarrassed by saying that. I'm like, yeah, I was just, I had a dream and I woke up and I had to go to the studio and the song came to me. It wasn't like Michael Jackson was working at it day and night ferociously and doing this. It was like he had a dream. And in a dream, Prince happened to be.
He wasn't in the dream.
If I don't get it, Prince is going to get it. Like, so he rushed, Michael Jackson used the story that Prince is going to do it unless I get in there. And that probably, and that's why people are like, he's eccentric.
Yeah.
No,
he get it. He got it.
Yeah, he's like,
he
I got to get this.
So
So the story of doing it now before it ran out, and he used Prince, and Prince, like, I had no idea. I motivated him to do this because,
it's just funny how that
Prince probably like, oh, I saw that song. I didn't really care for it.
Didn't really like that one.
Didn't really like that when I left it alone.
It's probably a huge hit.
I'm like,
that's probably why
Michael
I saw
Jackson, it would be better for that one.
It was just something that, one of those
Prince
little
is
videos.
probably like that way. I didn't think it was that good anyway.
Prince was an awakened soul. I've seen some cool stuff that he has shared too.
Listen, we're all awakened souls. We're just not always consciously aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we can get stuck in these lower vibrations of the day-to-day, the drama. I call it playing in the mud. We can all get down and play in the mud.
Yeah.
But why? When you see it for what it is, you don't want to get in the mud anymore. You see the mud for what it is, and you're like, no, I don't need to do that.
It's because we think we're doing it. Mm-hmm. Like if you were a musician thinking you actually wrote that song.
Yeah.
Or you're the only one. And
exactly.
It came through you. And that gift is allowing to come through me. And then if something comes through me, it's my God-given right and my God-given duty to actually present this to the rest of the world, because I'm like, can you imagine you found out like there was a song held back from us? Like I told you that story about Search for Sugar Man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite stories of all time. And it's about this guy named Rodriguez, who is, a musician in the 60s. He had done a couple albums and, he disappeared. He never made it big in the United States. And, he lived in Detroit or what have you. And there was somehow it really took off in South Africa. And it was during apartheid. So the music resonated. It was very Bob Dylan-esque.
Okay.
His voice is really good. Obviously Bob Dylan's a genius, but so is this guy, equally a genius, right? When it comes to music, and his voice is really good. As the story goes, is somebody over there wanted to do a documentary on this guy Rodriguez, and he heard he died, and there's different stories. He committed suicide and burnt himself on stage, and so this guy set out, and he deemed Rodriguez to be just as famous as Elvis, which is really
in
like
Africa.
that's like, come on. So he finally made his way to the United States. He's telling the story, and meeting with a couple of people, and he finally, one of the producers, he asked him, like, how did he die? And the guy's like, he's not dead. He lives in Detroit. He gave him his address. And can you imagine this guy from South Africa, like, holy shit, I'm going to meet Elvis. Mm-hmm. Like, and I thought he was dead.
The star.
Yeah, so he finally gets to a point with Rodriguez, and he starts telling Rodriguez how famous he is, and Rodriguez is like, very humble guy, like, yeah, you're out of your mind type of thing, just whatever.
Living
so then he goes, no.
life.
And then the guy's like, no, you got to come back to South Africa. You got to do a concert. He goes like, all right, and I think he was living in a one-bedroom apartment. He was working as a laborer type of thing, and, very humble guy. And he goes back and he invites some of his kids. I don't know how many children he had, but I just remember in the scene in the documentary, they go into a stadium, and I don't want to say like 30,000 seats, pretty decent sized stadium. And his daughter's like, this is going to be embarrassing. Because if even 200 people showed up, that looks empty in that thing. He sold out 5 nights in a row.
See, that's epic.
So here is a guy where his music was held from us, except for South Africa, of course. And when you start listening to his music, it is brilliant, and it's like, how did we not hear this? Mm-hmm. But to me, the music's brilliant, but the fucking story, my God, it resonates with me.
Is that a true story, or did somebody just write that?
No, it's a true story.
So that's even better.
Yeah, if anyone out there, it's called the documentary's called "Search for Sugar Man."
See, I love that. See,
and I played your song the other night at your house.
I remember that. That was great.
But but he wasn't like. It's just funny how things work out. Like we don't know.
But we pretend like we do.
Yeah, now he's in his 60s, right? And he becomes into this fame, and he's playing, he's touring around, and from what I understand, he was still living. He recently deceased, but he would still, the money didn't change him. Mm-hmm. It was about the music. And what was really interesting is he just flew out there, and they showed parts of the first concert. It was like he never left the stage, and he's playing with musicians that he never played with before.
Of course.
But these people studied this music, and I'm like, holy shit, this is. But he stopped. He went back into that field where he wrote the music, and somehow left it, and somehow this field just disappeared and vanished. But this is the miraculous attributes of life. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. To me, it's one of the greatest rock stories ever.
Yeah.
Music stories, and it resonated with me. I don't know why. It just did. I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people, but it's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard, almost like beyond the Cinderella story.
I forgot where I heard this, but there was somebody talking about how we're all sitting on our own treasure. We're all sitting on our own bucket of gold, if you will. And that's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, my wife has a key to it, though.
we all have this gift that, we think, oh, this gift doesn't matter. This gift won't make me money. This gift won't, yield me, peace, happiness, freedom. And it's in that gift.
What I do
that we find our,
watch a really good movie, whatever it is, and notice the character you're attracted to, and chances are they aren't the richest person in there.
Oh, usually not.
Yeah, like there's so many characters I could play. Like they're not, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And why are you attracted to them? Because there's something authentic about the character and how they're living. Mm-hmm. The character that is the more genuine character is the ones that aren't trying to accomplish something. They're jumping into whatever field that needs necessary to mitigate whatever's happening in the moment. They're not looking for it; it just happens. So, like James Bond is never looking for trouble; it just happens. But yet he deals with it. And so we're attracted to that. So why do we want to be the person that has all the money and creating the problems? Not that people with money create problems either, but you see what I'm saying? You're trying to accomplish something beyond the point in which you're missing the experience in which you came here to have. And that's because you're trying to live a condition. Who gave you that condition? You didn't come with it. You picked it up thinking someone convinced you this is better.
Mm-hmm. It could come from parents. It could come from family, teacher.
That's how we're controlled.
Our media, a movie, television, all of the above.
You want to be
online.
Want to be controlled by somebody's condition. Mm-hmm. If you do this, this, and this, I will give you this. This
is a good segue. We should play that one clip that we have from Abraham.
All right.
We found this clip, and we thought this would be a great one to share on today's episode.
Where is the little squirrely thing here?
Let's pull it up.
Here we go. All right. Here's Abraham.
Do you have a pile of things that you're supposed to do that are in a corner in your somewhere and you haven't even opened them yet? Do you have any of those piles? Because you don't want to face what's in those because that doesn't feel fun. That feeling of not ready to start is contradicted energy. This game won't feel like that. Because as we were talking earlier, when you have an idea of something that you care about, that you want, and you focus on things that are in harmony with that, so it just keeps feeling good. The momentum calls you, and you can't not go. So don't confuse action with inspiration, with creation. There are a lot of things that you just don't feel like doing, and when you don't feel like doing something, it's not good to do it anyway, because you're trying to use action to cover up for the lack of alignment. But don't use your I don't feel like doing it as an excuse either. Get into alignment and then do what you feel inspired to do. It's split energy when you want it but. It's split energy when your inner being knows what you want and is focused on it and you're focused on the opposite. That's split energy too. It's split energy when you say you're going to do something and don't do it and then feel guilty for not doing it. It's not split energy when you said you were going to do something and you don't feel like doing it, so instead you do something you feel like doing. Did you hear that? It's split energy when you say you're going to do something and you mean it and then you don't do it. But it's not split energy when you say you're going to do it and then don't feel like doing it and feel like doing something else and you do what you feel like doing. So as you start paying attention to how you feel instead of about what's right and what's wrong, because you are so deliberate about your thoughts, you get after yourself if you don't get a result that is quick. And that's because you're good at making things happen. But what you want to promote is being good at allowing things to happen that you've set into motion that you can't even clearly define. Because it is our promise to you, it's going to surprise you in more ways than it won't. And that doesn't mean you're going to have to accept parts that you weren't counting on. It's not like that at all. It's just so much more than you've articulated. Nothing less than alignment will do for you. You really have to get to this place in order to feel really good, comfortable about it, where you really do trust that you get to choose, that you have been choosing, you've done a really good job of choosing, and your choices, from our perspective, are complete. In other words, we don't think you need a whole lot more to define what this is all about. But you gotta nix the impatience. And you know where the impatience mostly comes from? Other people who look at you and have the flawed premise or misunderstanding or even the nerve to see you incomplete. Because if you could explain to them, it wouldn't do any good because they couldn't hear you anyway, but if you could explain to them what's really going on is that there's no incompletion, there's a state of becoming, and you're looking for divine timing. And divine timing is about things lining up, and only the law of attraction knows how to do that. So we really appreciate all you deliberate creators. We really do. But if you will stop trying to be the law of attraction and just go with the flow of the law of attraction and know that you're out of whack with your own asking when you feel anything less than eager anticipation.
Perfect. It's like, stop being the law of attraction. Stop being the accomplishment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's how you discern. Like, I like what you said earlier in that, where if you set out to do something and you don't do it, that's a splitting of the energy. But if you set out to do something and then you don't want to do it anymore, it doesn't split the energy. Mm-hmm. So you can discern. So sometimes going out to do something might get me in a direction to go do something else. So you have to let go of the condition of this. I have to finish this fulfillment. I'm like, no, that wastes a lot of time too. Mm-hmm. So it reminds me of that story when we first started doing our podcast many years ago, 4 years ago. I remember it was a Monday and I had a list of things to do and I ran out and did. I'm like, there's one more thing I have to do. I can't remember what it was. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go to a movie. I already worked out and did all my shit. So I'm driving to the movie theater and a van pulls up. It was Guitar Center. I had to pick up a microphone. So I literally didn't go to the movie and I drove to Guitar Center. So it was kind of like, it was kind of synchronistic, but I'd never watched the movie and I wasn't upset because the movie was just like, I don't want to sit around type of thing. And all of a sudden I pull up to a light and a guitar. I'm like, how often do you see Guitar Center vans?
Never.
Like
never. You don't see those.
I'm like, oh, I need a microphone. That's what I need for Wednesday's podcast. Remember we do the podcast on Wednesday? Yeah. So I just U-turned it, went right to Guitar Center. I started laughing all the way down. But it was not having a condition that I had to go do the movie. Now I'm set on it and I got to finish that and I got to accomplish that thing. That would have drove me nuts. I could have still got the microphone afterwards, but at that point I just wanted to go to Guitar Center. I was like, I don't really need to watch them. Yeah, it's a weird, funny thing happened.
But that's what this paradox is, and that's what she's getting at, which is, we need to get better at allowing things to happen, which is that the more something has to be a certain way, the more we struggle. We kind of talked about this too with our analogy of the Chinese finger trap, that little toy where you put it on. The more you pull, the harder you try, the more you get stuck. Yeah. It's not until you let go and put the fingers together and rest that it actually lets go and falls off.
Yeah, and one thing
and then you accomplish.
Yeah, the thing to do out there, and this is not an accomplishment or something you have to task-wise, but just be aware of it. Find a day, a time, whatever like that, in a period of your day, whatever, where you're just going to relieve yourself of having to accomplish something, and you put it off till later, and see what happens. All right? Again, don't be too like, oh, it's not going to work out, I'll do it later. Just like literally free yourself from everything. And when you do that, what happens is your body the energy in your body, because what happens, I have to accomplish this thing. It's one other thing. Now you put all these detours in your body, and these detours are blocking the energy flow. When you take all the detours up, there is no traffic. The energy's flowing. And when the energy's flowing, I'm like, that's when you want to do shit. Mm-hmm. And then you go in because you want to express how you feel. And through the expression of it, see what happens. The most miraculous things happen. And the universe doesn't send you to do things that aren't part of the tapestry of life, what we deem to be accomplishing. Yeah, we become accomplished, but we don't set out with an accomplishment because we don't even know what the fuck that is.
Well, that's it.
I'm going to write the best song that's ever been written. Like, good luck with that, because that's subjective. But like, you know, I woke up from a dream and I had to get up there before Prince. That's a fucking great story.
Isn't that ridiculous? It was just great. He knew that there was this field.
Prince was like, damn, I should have.
Exactly. You can picture him saying that.
Yeah.
But that's this way we live, you know, which is, so what I would encourage people to do is I would encourage you to, we all have these goals, these dreams, right? And you can have that. That's great, and those will become accomplished, you know. But get out of the way. And what I mean by that is allow yourself to be. So the universe isn't going to forget about what you're trying to accomplish or what's coming in. In fact, it's trying to accomplish that. But you keep jerking it around by saying, no, I got to do this first. Then I got to go over here and finish this, schooling, and then come here and work at this job for this number of years. Then I'll be able to accomplish it. That's you telling the universe on your terms, you know, what you believe it must happen. But the universe has its own plan to bring that to you. So it's like stepping out of the way, and it's getting out of the way something has to happen. So you can still have this intention, you can still have these goals, and you will achieve them, but get out of the way of how it must happen, how you must see it. Get into a state where, what would it feel like if you had already have that? Now let's remain there. What does that feel like? You know, I feel good. I'd be relaxed. You know, I wouldn't be, you know, thinking in my head all day long. You know, that's where we want to get to. And then watch what happens. And
also remember, you're not separate from the universe. Mm-hmm. So we are that because we're experiencing it through this physical body. Mm-hmm. So we have to remember that too. And discern, is that dream something my folks wanted, or is it something I want? And if it's something that was going to be in your story, you don't have to think about it. It just shows up. Mm-hmm. Just like, you know, the body I have just showed up. You know, yeah, I can alter it through eating a lot or eating little, you know, lifting weights, whatever like that, just play around. But essentially, that's what happens. There's still this area of manipulation and stuff like that, which is a brilliant thing, like, you know. But that's how you discern. So if what it is how you discern is, if in having this thing, I'll be happy. I'm like, why aren't you happy? It's a conditioned statement. So if you're always happy, you're going to start to see your accomplishments in life, and you won't even notice them as accomplishments. You'll just say, like, this is life. Everyone else, like, wow. Why, you know, you have a great life. It's like, yeah, I wasn't trying, you know? Like Forrest Gump. What was he trying to accomplish? Nothing. You know, it's a brilliant story from that fact. Because you look at the 4 decades of that movie span at us, watching this guy that was, in the beginning, no one really... We all felt sorry for him. At the end, everyone wanted to be him. Probably the only thing he wanted to accomplish was getting Jenny to love him the way he felt she should be loved, and he cared about her. And that was the one area he struggled in. So he brought that piece of the character in there. But everything else just came. But yet, would you say, if Forrest Gump was real, would you say he was not accomplished?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. But he wasn't trying to accomplish that. If you trust the system, if you trust the parachute, you will jump out of the airplane and experience the fall to the earth. Mm-hmm. And then poof, hit that chute.
And that's what's so exciting.
Yeah. Trust the universe.
It's in the unknown.
Because you are the universe. You're a piece of the universe. Having an individual experience in how you're looking at it.
Yeah, you're just one word in that book of 8 billion words.
Yeah, just like every sun ray hitting the earth is having an experience on whatever particular part of the earth they're hitting. But the source is the sun. And that's where it all comes from. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in this week. As always, it's a pleasure. We will see you guys next week. We're going to be back with a new round of information for you guys. We've got some exciting stuff planned for 2025. Feel free to reach out to us. You can follow us online, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz, or send us an email. You can reach us at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com.
Yeah. So much love and peace out.
See you guys soon.